Welcome to Vintage Weights PGH, and this is a history of barbell rescue. The only, the first history of a nylon brush ever posted to YouTube. So you need to watch it. Kim has come all the way from Alaska to Home Gym Con 2023. Welcome, Kim. How's it been going this weekend?
It's been phenomenal. Like, I can't believe the reception. It's everything that I would want out of the first timer as a vendor. Like, it's mind-blowing.
I just saw Nice Like Mike talk with Kim and buy a brush. So, I mean, has it been good exposure for you?
Very good exposure. Actually, the best thing that we've seen as we've made a push over the last 3 or 4 months with our advertising is everybody that has come has been like, oh, I've seen you.
Nice.
And so they already have that kind of like initial idea of what's the concept of what's going on with it.
Yeah.
And then now I just have to put it in their hand.
Exactly. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So the history of barbell rescue. What's your history in terms of weightlifting and in terms of things like that?
Sure.
Military member, right?
Yeah, military. So if we want to go way back, high school sports was always there.
Yeah.
And then into college, I actually cheered at a junior college.
I always tell people, if I see them like putting down male cheerleaders, oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's so crazy. Go ahead and pick that person up over your head.
Yeah. So
Were you one of those dudes?
It was all about technique.
Okay.
It was all about technique.
Fair enough, man.
And
because a strength history connection that I make to that is that if you look in any strength and health magazines for maybe about the 1950s to 60s, very regularly you see human lifting as a strength pursuit.
Sure. So like we would get so like on the junior college level. One, the reason I went that direction is because it was a books and tuition scholarship.
Boom.
And I was like, well, I don't want to get beat up on the football field anymore, so why not just throw girls around and get paid the same way?
That might be the new title of this video. that might be the new title.
We would have football players as they got cut from the football team and be like, hey, come over this way.
Yeah,
and like so they would have the brawn, but
cool.
The technique was something that you'd have to refine along the way. But hey, it worked.
So
then that was a
pursuit.
And then fast forward a couple years after that, then I was like, I'd always been interested in the military.
Yeah.
And then I thought, man, the only way I'm really going to stay in shape is if I do the military. At least that would force me to stay in shape, right?
Yeah.
And then, then it was just the standard PT test.
Okay.
Nothing too exciting. I would try to lift weights here and there.
I know that very well.
I'd try to lift weights here and there. Would nothing be too just didn't capture my attention long term. And then, like a lot of military folks, I found CrossFit on a deployment.
Yeah.
And, I drank the Kool-Aid, and it kept me entertained because there were so many different avenues that I could go down.
Yeah, a lot of variety.
And then that kind of kept me on the consistent page.
Okay.
And so then it was through once I got my level 1 and then started coaching.
Probably a lot of chalk at that point.
And a lot of chalk. There was
definitely
chalk.
Back to that.
Definitely was a lot of chalk. So then once I started coaching and I had this grandiose idea of being a gym owner myself.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, how can I help gym owners? And anyway, so it was a simple, hey, I'm not going to be a gym owner myself anymore. That's just not in the cards right now. And I was like, how can I help a gym owner?
Yeah.
And I said, well, what's a crummy job as a gym owner? And I was like, well, the ones that I knew, they all complained about barbell maintenance. And
I get a lot of messages from gym owners actually on my page that aren't like restoring old barbells, but they ask me, hey, what's the quickest way I can just clean up all my bars?
Yeah. One gym owner I talked to had owned his gym for like 2 years, and he was like, I've never cleaned because I don't know how. Yeah. And I was like, have I got a deal for you?
Yeah. So that leads us to this duct tape piece of equipment
this
here.
is it.
What do we got? Is this the first?
This was, so actually, I had one that was a PVC pipe.
Okay.
And I thought maybe, okay, let's do the old school entrepreneur, inventor.
So
I'll do a PVC pipe, but it was too thick.
So here's a prototype.
So
PVC pipe was too thick.
Too thick. It didn't fit right. And anyway, so I was like walking around stores looking for like the perfect cylindrical item that I could cut up and make into it. And then one day I found a water bottle in my house, and I took it to the table saw, And then I found this brush, which was a rope brush for boats.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a crazy shape, and it wasn't big enough because I thought at that point I would just, that was it.
Yeah.
And anyway, it wasn't the right shape that I wanted, and I bought a couple, I chopped them all up, and then I was like, I want something replaceable. So then, there's where the replacement insert came from.
And this is another piece of duct tape.
Yeah, more duct tape.
So inventors out there,
Yeah.
take note. Duct tape.
Duct tape works.
Duct tape works for
At
your
least
prototype.
it'll get the concept out.
Yeah, you'll have something to
And-
hold in your hands to think about.
I tried it a few times. Obviously, it's not perfectly,
Sure.
but it proved the idea.
Yeah, proof of
And
point. Yeah.
at that point, none of this was taught to me in nursing school.
Yeah.
So it was always just like, what's the next question?
Yeah.
How do I do this? How do
Yeah.
I reached out to a few manufacturers.
Yeah.
They either didn't respond or they just said, you're too early. And I was like, what do you mean too early? I have no
What?
clue. I have no clue what that is.
Yeah. Oh, I just recently filed for an LLC.
Uh-huh.
You know, because I want to make this into a business, Vintage
Yeah.
Rights, PGH, and even that was nerve-wracking. And like, what do I do? Like, who do I contact? Am I doing this right?
Exactly. It was like, okay, I guess, do I get an LLC? Do I get a business license?
Yeah.
I
Like,
don't
what do
know.
you do?
It was just like, okay, I guess, do I need a patent? It seems like I should probably have one. So I researched patents, and then
Okay.
it was like, okay, now it was like researching manufacturers, and I reached out and I couldn't get anywhere.
Okay.
So then it went to podcasts,
Yeah.
and it was how to get your product invented or manufactured. And then one day I find this podcast of an inventor who had a product design company.
Okay.
And I was like, well, what's a product design company?
Yeah.
Anyway, I emailed that guy. He gave a rave review to the company that he used,
Yeah.
Pillar Product Design out of Seattle. I emailed those guys. I made a phone call.
Yeah.
They were excited that I actually had a working prototype instead of just some sort of drawing on a napkin.
Yeah.
And then we went through the phases of just the design and then prototyping, and then eventually we went through probably
So, I
four
mean,
different designs.
Viewers, if you jumped in here because you're curious about this product, you might have gotten some information, but what you just heard here, I think, is important to anyone that's watching that might have their own product designs. So that's interesting. So going through the process,
it was
you'd never been through it before, but you were able to just kind of feel your way through the process.
It was always like a what's next.
Yeah.
And then podcast after podcast.
Yeah.
And and just Googling
Sure.
the crap out of everything and all the different topics.
Yeah.
And then everything just kind of started falling into place.
Yeah.
And one thing that I did learn was that there is no right way to invent a product or start the business.
Yeah.
It's just really
If it works,
just
it
start.
works.
Like so when they that adage about just start,
Yeah.
like and that's your best way to learn.
Journey
It
of
was
1,000 miles.
It was 100%.
One step at a time.
Because I would be like, how to start a business, and I was looking for this like cookie cutter template because
yeah.
I'm like,
What's
I
step
like
one?
I like checklists, and it was
Yeah.
like everybody said something different. I was like, what? I'd read plenty of like business books prior to, but now it was like the application portion, and then just going through it.
Yeah.
That was the real learning aspect of it.
I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this brush, but viewers, if you're curious about how I put this brush through the paces, go to the link in the description, or I'll drop a link at the end of this video to watch my full review of the Barbell Rescue brush, because there are a couple different very nice reviews of it out there by people I respect, but none of those people submerged it in acid and did the things that I did with it. So if you like to really put your tools of the trade through the paces, check out my review of Barbell Rescue. Bottom line up front, it's a great product, but you're gonna see some wacky stuff in my video with it. Kim, thanks so much.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
And hey, check out Kim. I'll drop all the links for Barbell Rescue so you can go get yourself one, and so that you can follow it on Instagram. He posts some neat stuff on there, some very funny stuff. You showed me a video yesterday with the Barbell Rescue that I don't think I'll get out of my brain anytime soon.
Yeah.
So, hey, as always, old weights, new gains, and you can't clean up your old weights if you don't have one of these.
Right on.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, brother.
Awesome.